This is Miss Humbert here. Today we're going to be doing Unit 1, Notes 7, which is talking about standard forms. This is the last form of equations that we're going to learn in this unit. So let's go ahead and let's take a look at what a standard form of an equation is. So a standard form of equation is ax plus by is equal to c. So in this form, a, b, and c are all constants, and that just means that they are numbers. Okay, there's no slope, and there's also no y-intercept in this form. So when do we use it? Because we can't really use it to graph because there's no slope or y-intercept. So we typically use this to model situations when you're given two variables. So this is really going to be used for a lot of word problems. So that's something that we are going to practice today. Okay. So let's go ahead and let's take a look now at number 1. So for number 1, once it catches up with me, there we go. What we want to do is we want to have our x's and our y's on one side and the thing that's just a number on the other side. So the only thing I need to do is get rid of this plus 4. I need to get that over to the other side. Well, since it's plus 4, I can go ahead and subtract 4 from both sides. So I get 3x minus 2y is equal to, well, 9 minus 4 is going to give me 5. And that's all there is to it. Okay, 3x minus 2y is equal to 5. Now let's take a look at number 2. Again, the only thing I need to do is get this thing that's just a number over to the other side. Well, since it's a minus 7, I can go ahead and add 7 to both sides. So I have negative 6x minus 5y is equal to 8 plus 7, which is 15. Again, so that's my final answer. Once the constant is brought over to the other side and the x and the y are on the same side, we're in good shape. Next, let's go ahead and let's take a look at number 3. So for number 3, what we need to do is this time we need to get that negative 2x over to the other side. So the first thing is I notice is that it's a negative 2x, which means in order to get that 2x over to the other side, I have to add 2x. So I get 2x plus 3y, and that's going to be set equal to 4. Okay, so I have my x's and y's on the same side and the thing that's just a number on the other side, so that means that this one is completely done. Now taking a look at number 4, I need to get that 4y on the same side as the x. So I see that it is a positive 4y. So in order for me to get it over to the other side, I need to subtract 4y from both sides. So I get negative 2x minus 4y is equal to 6. And that is my final answer right there. I have my x's and y's on the same side. Now let's go ahead and let's take a look at how we're going to use this in word problems. So it says you have $10 to buy carrots and tomatoes, and that tomatoes cost $2 per pound and carrots cost $1.25 per pound. I'm going to let x represent how many carrots I buy. I'm going to let y represent how many tomatoes I buy. So I have $10. Now let's assume that we're going to go ahead and buy all 10. Okay, so we're going to use all $10. So for every X amount of carrots I buy, it's going to cost $1.25. Okay, then for every Y amount of tomatoes that I buy, it's going to cost $2. And guess what? That's it. Now, normally standard form is written with the x's and the y's on the other side, but I'm not going to get picky if you have it written that way. Either one of these is okay, as long as the x and the y are on one side and the thing that's just a number is on the other. Now let's take a look at number 6. You're moving into a new house. You can carry 56 pounds at a time. One box of book weighs 18 pounds and one box of clothing weighs 10 pounds. So I'm going to let X represent the number of boxes of books you're going to carry, and I'm going to let Y represent the number of boxes of clothing that you're going to carry. So we can carry a total of 56 pounds at once because we're big and strong people. Okay? So for every X box of books that I bring, it's going to cost me $18. For every Y box of clothing, it's going to cost me $10. So that's 18X plus 10Y, that's a plus, is equal to 56. We don't have to solve it. All we're doing is writing an equation for each situation. Now let's go ahead and let's take a look at number 7. So for number 7, what I want us to do is set this up. It says you are in charge of buying a hamburger and chicken for a party. You have $60 to spend. The hamburger costs $2 per pound and the chicken costs $3 per pound. So it gives us that hamburger is represented by X and that chicken is represented by Y. Okay? So for every X pound of hamburger that I buy, it's going to cost me $2. For every Y pound of chicken, it's going to cost me $3. And all of that has to equal the $60 that I have to spend. Next, let's go ahead and let's take a look at number 8. So for number 8, you are buying $48 worth of lawn seed that contains 2 types of seed. One type is a quick-growing ryegrass. Ryegrass is going to be represented by X. The other is a high-quality seed. So that's going to be represented by Y. So now we want to write an expression, okay? So let's take a look. So we have $48 that we can spend. So whatever we spend, we want it to add up to $48. So for every X pound of ryegrass that I buy, it's going to cost me $4. So notice I'm multiplying the price by the amount of each object. For every Y pound of quality seed that I buy, it's going to cost me $6. And that is your setup for number 8. So let's take a look. We need to write it in standard form for each of the points given. Now remember, whenever we're given 2 points, we have to use point slope form like we did yesterday. So the first thing we're going to do is calculate out the slope. So I have x1, y1, x2, y2. So I'm going to do y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. Well, 7 minus 4 is going to give me 3, and 5 minus 2. You know what, let's make this a 2 to make it easier. We're going to cross that guy out and make it a 2. And that's going to be divided by 2. So 3 over 2, okay? Or 3 over 3, sorry. 5 minus 2 is 3. Goodness, Miss Humbert. 3 divided by 3 is 1. So now let's go ahead and we're going to put this into point slope form. So instead of having the point 1, 4, we're going to use the point 2, 4. So we're going to put this in point slope form, and it doesn't matter what point we use. So let's just use the second one. So we found out that our slope was 1. Now in here is going to be the opposite of the x coordinate, which is minus 5. Here, opposite of the y coordinate, which is minus 7. So now we're going to have to do a little bit of algebraic manipulation. So first thing I'm going to do is distribute. So the y minus 7 stays the same. 1 times x is x. 1 times negative 5 is negative 5. So now I need to do a couple of things. I need to bring that x over to the other side, and I need to bring that negative 7 over to the other side. Well, I see that this is a positive x. So I'm going to go ahead and subtract x from both sides. So I get negative x plus y minus 7 is equal to a negative 5. So here, now all I have to do to get it in standard form is add 7 to both sides. So negative x plus y is equal to negative 5 plus 7, which is 2. So that's your final answer for that one. Now let's take a look at number 10. So for number 10, we have negative 4, 3, and then 0, negative 5. So what we're going to do is we're going to label it x1, y1, x2, y2. So then I'm going to have y2 minus y1 divided by x2 minus x1. Now remember, when you subtract a negative, it becomes plus a positive. So I get negative 8 divided by 4, which is going to give me a negative 2. So my slope here is going to be negative 2. Now I can pick either point to put it in point slope form. So let's just use the first point. So I have y is equal to that, and I'm just setting up my puzzle. So in here is going to go my slope, which I found to be negative 2. And then I picked to use the point negative 4, 3. So the opposite of my x-coordinate is going to be a plus 4. The opposite of my y-coordinate is going to be a minus 3. So now I'm going to go ahead and distribute. So I get y minus 3 is equal to negative 2 times x, which is negative 2x, negative 2 times 4, which is negative 8. So now what I want to do is I want to go ahead and add 3 to both sides. So when I do that, I get that y is equal to a negative 2x, negative 8 plus 3 is negative 5. Okay, now in order for it to be in standard form, I need to get that 2x over to the other side. So I'm going to go ahead and add 2x to both sides. So then I have 2x plus y, typically you write the x first, is equal to a negative 5. So now it's in standard form. I would like you guys to try number 11 on your own. If you're still really confused on how to do this, and I understand it can be kind of tricky, so if you're still confused on how to do this, please come talk to me and we will do it together. All right, let's take a look at number 12. I want to do this one together because we need to practice with fractions. So we have x1, y1, x2, y2. So I have y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. 4 minus 2 is 3, or 4 minus 1 is 3. 6 minus 2 is 4. So here we're going to have a fraction. Let's not worry about that right now. Let's just get it into point-slope form. So I'm going to use the first point. Again, it shouldn't matter which point you use as long as you do it correctly. So in the slope spot, I'm going to use the fraction 3/4. In the x-coordinate, I'm going to do the opposite of the x-coordinate, which is minus 2. In the y spot, I'm going to do the opposite of the y-coordinate, which is minus 1. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to distribute in that 3/4. So I have y minus 1. 3/4 times x is going to give me simply 3/4 times x. Now 3/4 times negative 2 can get really confusing. So basically it's 3 times 2, which is 6, and then that's going to be divided by 4. We'll worry about reducing that fraction here in a second. So first thing I want to do is get my x over to the other side. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to subtract 3/4 x from both sides. So then I end up getting, negative 3/4 x minus or plus y minus 1 is equal to negative 6 over 4. Okay, so now instead of writing this as minus 1, I'm going to write it as negative 4 over 4 because to remember to add fractions, you have to have the same number. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to add 4 over 4 to both sides. So my left side is going to stay the same. I'm going to have negative 3/4 x plus y is equal to, now I can take and I can add negative 6 plus 4. Well, negative 6 plus 4 is going to give me a negative 2 over 4. So the last thing I need to do is reduce that fraction. So I have negative 3/4 x plus y is equal to negative 1/2 when you divide both of those by 2. Okay, I wouldn't expect you guys to do a fraction one on your own, so all of them on your worksheet should work out to be good numbers. So go ahead and show me your note sheet when you are done. Thanks for listening.